the ground though. I can't shut the shades on the ground. There are a few meetings.
He'll let you know. Mr. Reggie,
Can we shut the door too?
no, you can't shut the door.
Oh, you're right. You can't shut. What about the other door?
Yeah, right now.
Usually they do.
It's I mean, the story's written. They want to have to straight.
Ready?
Welcome to the March 20th, 2023 meeting of the County Planning Commission. Welcome to you all. Ms. Townsend, if you could lead us in a moment of silence and pledge allegiance, please.
Thank you. If you don't mind, we'll take a moment of silence. We'll do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Townsend. Roll call, Ms. Berry.
Ms. Townsend. Here. Ms. Butler. Here. Mr. Moyer.
Here.
Ms. Pearson.
Here.
Ms. Thomas. Mr. La Rochelle.
Here.
Dr. Schmidt. Mr. Davis.
Here.
Ms. Rose.
Here.
Mr. Tiller.
Here.
Mr. Bennett.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Berry. To our agenda, we'll follow the agenda pretty specifically. We are moving on to our approval of our minutes from the February 21st, 2023 meeting of the Planning Commission. Do I have any additions, corrections, or alterations that need to be made to the minutes?
Should go pretty smooth because Mr. Davis is not here tonight. Oh, he is here. I'm sorry. I didn't hear you say here. My bad.
With that, I have one minor correction.
Mr. Davis, I wouldn't have taken that if I were you, but. Okay.
All right, under section 12, first paragraph, first sentence, page 6, comp plan, add the word update, comp plan update, steering committee. That's the only corrections I have.
Any of the other commissioners on? Ms. Berry, I do have one. And I think it's just the delete of one word, but it's on page 3 of 6. The fifth paragraph from the bottom, it states, Ms. Butler asked why this was not done in the original plans and why it is now. I'm not sure if one word needs to be deleted or the other. That's it. Any others? If not, I'll accept any motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as corrected.
Thank you, Ms. Pearson. Roll call, please.
Mr. Moyer.
Aye.
Mr. La Rochelle.
Aye.
Ms. Rose.
Abstain.
Mr. Tiller?
Aye.
Ms. Butler?
Aye.
Ms. Townsend?
Abstain.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Ms. Pearson?
Aye.
Mr. Bennett?
Aye. The reason for Ms. Townsend, Ms. Rose's abstention is because they were absent at that meeting. Next, we're moving on to item number 5, citizen comment period. This is a time period in which our citizens or those people in the office can address this commission. I will remind those citizens that are signed up to have a dialogue, not a dialogue, but to speak to us, that it's anything related to planning or land use except for that item that we're having the public hearing on tonight. Except for that item we're having the public hearing on tonight. Okay, yeah. I have Randy Allen. Okay. It's only going to be on the signage tonight. Then you may rise. But it'll be on Buc-ee's signage for the public hearing. But you may speak about Buc-ee's in general right now, but the public hearing's on the signage and signage alone. If you may have your full name and address, please.
My name is Randy Allen. I live at 8354 East Lord Botetourt Loop. That is in the Farms of New Kent, Land Bay 5. I've lived there about 5 years. It is the residential area that is closest to the proposed location of Buc-ee's. I do want to speak today overall in favor of Buc-ee's after some initial reservations. I think the scope and size of contemplating a 120 pump gas station is a little bit intimidating at first if you've never heard of Buc-ee's, never been familiar with it. Have studied the county zoning regulations and very familiar with the PUD ordinance in Farms of New Kent. And as long as the lighting, noise ordinances, and the buffer requirements between the residential and the commercial areas are closely followed, I believe that we can coexist and it be mutually beneficial. There's two perspectives from in my mind. One is county-wide perspective, and one is a perspective from the Farms of New Kent. From the county perspective, there's no doubt this is a feather in the cap for the county to draw a business of this visibility and be the first one in the state. The tax base it could generate, as long as we don't give away the farm. If you follow the press across the country, they do seem to have a pattern of being very aggressive in asking for tax breaks from the localities that agree to allow them to locate there. So one of my cautionary messages today is let's not give away the farm in terms of those tax breaks, while we're also trying to say that one of the reasons for allowing them to come is all the tax revenue it will generate. And again, as long as the lighting and the noise regulations and the buffer zones are maintained, I think we can coexist. I think it'll have beneficial aspects to drawing other businesses, not only to the county, but to the commercial zones within the Farms of New Kent. That is very important for the successful completion of our neighborhoods, that those commercial areas get off the ground, and this seems like it would be a big kickstart to the business development and get that going off the ground. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. That concludes our people, the individuals that have signed up for tonight. We'll move on to any presentations, Ms. Kelly? No. Okay. Item number 7, moving right along. Unfinished business. None? Okay. We're right up to it. Item number 8, our public hearing. Mr. LaRochelle will conduct a public hearing for us tonight. The floor is yours, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight we have one public hearing before us, which is CUP-01-23 regarding commercial sign for Buc-ee's. Each has been properly advertised for tonight's consideration. Let me take a moment to review the procedures that we use for tonight's hearing. Each public hearing will be considered separately. We only have one. Staff will give a brief overview of the hearing that is before us. The sponsor of the case will be given an opportunity to make a presentation. Commissioners will be given an opportunity to ask questions of the sponsors or staff for clarification purposes. I will then open the citizens' comment portion of the public hearing and receive your comments. Sign-up sheets are located on the desk by the front doors of the admin building. I ask the following: you come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, address your comments to the commission, limit your comments to 3 minutes. When the timer sounds, please conclude your remarks. Please note that the commission members will not answer your questions during the citizens' comment period, but will certainly take those questions and comments into consideration during the deliberation period of the public hearing. Do we have anyone signed up for the public comment? Presentation, I'm sorry.
I'm going to have Mr. Vaughn. There we go. Members of the Planning Commission, Matthew Smolnick, your Assistant County Administrator, and also the Director of Economic Development. So tonight I think I'm standing here as the Director of Economic Development. Here for CUP 0123 Kent Farms Holding Company, LLC, and Buc-ee's Limited. The applicant has submitted a conditional use permit application, requested up to a 125-foot tall pylon sign on current tax map parcel 22A5A. This is the northeast quadrant of 211 interchange. I've got an aerial shortly. Conditional use permit is required as the request is taller than what is permitted per the commercial sign regulations of this planned unit development. So looking here, this is exit 211, the New Kent County Visitors and Commerce Center, Station 5, directly across the street, and this is the off-ramp for 64 westbound. The proposed Buc-ee's will be in this quadrant. The proposed pylon sign is indicated by the red circle outlined in black as shown. This is a rendering of the proposed sign up to a maximum of 125 feet, 4 feet in width. You'll see there's the pylon, so the sign it's going to be oriented in such a way that the travelers on I-64 will see this in the eastbound and westbound lanes on 64. The black portion, the side portion, this is what is going to face to the north through the commercial segment of Land Bay 5 and eventually into the residential section, the Groves. This was all included in your packet. Pretty straightforward what they're requesting. The logo atop of a pylon and the words New Kent indicating that location for the passerbys to see. The pylon sign specifics up to 125 feet in height, internally illuminated, opaque black sides. The top circle's 25 foot in width, in diameter, and then 4 foot in width, as I described a few minutes ago. So what does this look like? What is this sign going to look like? We flew a balloon at 125 feet. And what I have here is I'm going to go through a few slides, the proposed location of the sign, and then balloon picture number 1. So I was standing here. This is the 64 U-turn in the middle, about 3/4 of a mile west of this overpass. And the red arrow indicates the direction that I was looking when I took the picture. So from this particular location, and I have these images also where you can zoom in should you have any questions. And the way this is set up is balloon picture number 1, my location, and then the balloon is indicated, it's within this yellowish halo. And if you need to see these pictures in greater detail, I've got them as standalone JPEGs. We can zoom in so you all can get a better look. Second picture up here, really right in front of the new clubhouse that just opened up recently in the Groves, looking to the southwest. At this point, you'll notice that the sign is below the tree line. This is after all logging has occurred, so those trees are remaining. They will not be logged. They will remain intact. And what I did, this next picture, I drove a little further south, looking the same general direction, south-southwest. And here you can clearly see that there's the 125-foot balloon that's flying in that orange halo beneath the tree line. Looking at the second roundabout directly south, you can't see anything here. These are the trees that border the east side of 106. This is the border for the buffer for the groves. These trees are still standing as they're shown in this picture today. So you cannot see it from the second roundabout. Going a little further south, just to orient you, this is the vineyard that you can see, and this was the Shoesmith access point. I was just north of that, and you can see the balloon. You'd be able to see the side of the sign from this area. Drove a little further south, just north of the first roundabout, closest to the visitor center, looking almost due south, and you can see the approximate location. That's the 125-foot mark right there. So staff has proposed some conditions on this. They were outlined in your particular staff report to try to minimize any impact on adjacent property owners. Up to 125 feet measured from the ground level, internally illuminated, non-glare static display sign, no flashing lights or changeable copy on the sign, no audio sounds emitted from the freestanding sign. The side shall be a black opaque material, and the column that supports the sign will also be painted black. No radio, telecommunication, or antenna of any kind mounted on the freestanding sign. And the last one, the CUP shall expire on the 10-year anniversary, should it be approved by the Board of Supervisors, if a final certificate of occupancy for the proposed automobile fueling station from the county has not been issued. This is just we don't want this out there forever, so 10 years from the date of issuance, if the Board of Supervisors does approve it, if a final CO is not issued for the primary use itself, this CUP becomes null and void. That's all I have. I'll be here to answer questions at the appropriate time, and Mr. Stanbeard from Buc-ee's is also here to either present, talk about the application, and or answer questions from the Planning Commission.
Good evening. I'm Stan Beard, Director of Real Estate for Buc-ee's, and I'm here to answer any questions. I would like to thank Matt for all the work planning. That balloon trip there was more to it than he's letting on, but it finally happened, and we do that for a reason. We want to be able to show folks, what they're going to see and why we're asking for it. It's not an empty request. It's meaningful to us, and I'll answer any questions you have about it. Yes, sir.
Just out of curiosity, I noticed the first picture Matt took was from the westbound side of 64 at the crossover. Could you see it from the eastbound side?
No.
I wasn't sure.
No.
But I had to ask.
And you'll only see it from westbound when the middle lanes are redone. Yeah.
Because imagine a lot of trees are coming out of that median.
Correct.
Just one question. So the exposure to the residential section that the sign is facing, it will be the edge or the end of it versus or the width.
Correct. The sign will be perpendicular to the freeway, and luckily all of the northern exposure is you're seeing that 4-foot width or some variation of it, but you're not seeing the big old smack dab thing all the time.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Mr. Smolnik. As with any of our towers that we put up, we usually require surety in case something were to happen, that there would be some payment of removing the sign, is there going to be a surety placed on this?
You know, we had not discussed that. Typically with a cell tower, there's no business operator, there's no certificate of occupancy, no other, you know, I can't say for certain, but no other business license on that, you know, on said property for a tower. So we have not, you know, discussed this. You know, it is a little bit different than a standalone cell tower on a property. It's up for discussion, but this would be, you know, for any business that opens up, for say, for instance, the Starbucks that's, you know, under construction or soon to be under construction, exit 205, will you require a surety for that sign? Will you require it for the Arby's? Did you require it for other businesses?
Well, I was just concerned with the amount, the height of it.
And that's why here it's for a conditional use permit. But we have not addressed this any differently than any other by right use, you know, businesses and their associated signs.
Matt, Potomac Mills had a problem with their sign during a hurricane or during a very bad storm, that they had to close the one side of 95 because it would have landed on 95 if it had fallen over. Mm-hmm. How far back are we from 64? Is that ever even thought of an issue, or is that? You know,
and I'm not sure in the history of the Potomac Mills sign, you know, how that was engineered or when it was put up.
Exactly.
You know, whenever, I mean, I can't speak for Mr. Beard, but I'm quite confident they have structural engineers designing these signs to withstand winds of X amount, just as the cell towers are designed in current days.
Like Pat's question, I think we just have to ask.
Absolutely, understand.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Mr. Smolnick. I appreciate the, you know, all the balloon test and all the photos. My question would go to the view specifically from the residential areas, and most of the it showed that most of the views were. The sign was below the existing tree line. Is there any potential that any of those trees could be removed, exposing that to a view, or is that locked up in?
I'm quite certain there's a wetland feature in that area. Okay. I know we've got a broker here representing the property. We do not have a representative for Farms of New Kent here tonight. You know, whenever that logging plan that we've seen going on over the last 3 to 4 months, you know, they've taken everything that they can. You know, so, you know, I can't verify that there's a wetland reach that runs up that far. I'm quite certain that it is. But, you know, I cannot speak for the property owner with, you know, with these trees. All I know is they took everything that they could right now, you know, for the greatest yield, obviously for the lumber.
Well, I'm assuming it's a two-sided sign, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So actually, it's going to face one way of 64 and the other way of 64. So the narrow part would be looking towards.
Yeah.
Right.
It is. I understand the orientation is meant to minimize the bright yellow view.
Mm-hmm.
I was just.
I understand your question. Will these trees remain? What, you know, is there a guarantee? Is this an easement? I can't answer that, Ms. Rose.
Are you tending to end the discussion, Mr. Moyer?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I can only accept that after we have a motion. We haven't closed the public hearing.
Public hearing.
Thank you, sir.
And then you need to, the public hearing for this particular application for comments for citizens to speak also.
Question, Mr. Chairman. Yes. The sign requirements that would approve for this PUD, what are those? What are the limitations?
I believe the height was 8 foot. Kelly, do you? Kelly has they were revised in December for any deviations for the signage requirements to require a conditional use permit. I do know that any deviations from the building standards is a zoning administrator request. The signs actually would require a use permit issued by the Board of Supervisors. Okay, so 50 square feet and 15 feet above grade.
One comment I'll make, Ms. Rose, I think when we were talking about the orientation of the sign, I think you kind of stated that the sign's being positioned to minimize the view. I think it's just a fortunate circumstance that the way it's aligning on the interstate gives it minimal view to the residential area. Okay.
Mr. LaRochelle, if we're finished with the questioning by the commission to the applicant, you may open the public hearing for the citizen comment.
And do we have any citizens sign up for the public comment? Okay, so remembering the comments will be limited to the signage, CUP-01-23. We have Mr. Andrew Shine.
Hello, my name is Andy Shine, 8064 West Lord Beautard Loop, here at the Groves at New Kent. I am here to show my support for Buc-ee's coming to New Kent. I moved here 4.5 years ago. I knew before I moved here that there would be over 1,200 additional homes built in my community. I also knew of the commercial areas in Land Bay 5 that were projected at that time. That was 2018. So I knew stuff was coming. Didn't know what, but I knew things were coming on the commercial development. When I heard the news of Buc-ee's was coming, I said, hooray! What's a Buc-ee's? So I started doing my research to learn all about them. I looked at maps showing the proposed site, and I looked at reviews of its existing places in other states. What I found was that many, many people love Buc-ee's. Next, I started to look into how it will impact New Kent County, and then also my community. I found that Buc-ee's is working with VDOT for traffic control upgrades, including exit 211. I found that the tax revenue would be sizable and help with growth to our county. When there is growth, there is change. And when there is change, there are challenges that have to be met. I hope we will continue to support our education system and maybe look to reduce our personal property tax with some of the tax revenue. Just an idea. I hope you approve this proposal. I welcome Buc-ee's to New Kent. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Shine. London and Francis Jones. Okay. And Reverend Milton Hathaway.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. I'm Milton Hathaway. I live at 9001 Crumps Mill Road in Quinton, and I'm in support of this conditional use permit. Back in October, I was driving across country, headed back to New Kent, and I can tell you when I saw the Buc-ee's sign, it was not obtrusive, it was inviting. I think it's an excellent opportunity for the county. I had the privilege of serving on this commission for 12 years, and 11 of those years as chairman of the Public Hearing Committee. And I understand the importance of smart planning and smart zoning. I think this meets it. We don't always have opportunities to get something like this. And so I would encourage you to support it, and I wholeheartedly support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Hathaway. That concludes the public comment period.
interest of time, I'll speak while I fill it out, but just for completeness and the consideration of the line of sight of the sign, I just want to point out Land Bay 4, where the arbors also is very close proximity to the sign. It is slightly west of the signage and would have a different angle than just the side of the sign. I don't know whether it'd be visible or not. I don't think the pictures show that, but just consider that.
Thank you, sir. That concludes the public comment period.
Thank you, Mr. LaRochelle. As chair, I will now entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll entertain a motion.
Yes, Ms. Townsend.
In order to address and protect and promote public convenience, necessity, general welfare, and good zoning practices in the county, I move to adopt the resolution number PC-03-23 to forward the application CUP 01-23 to the New Kent County Board of Supervisors with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you, Ms. Townsend. Discussion, and I'll start with Ms. Townsend, if you'd like to open discussion on this motion. If not, we'll just pass it along.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I do feel that this would be an asset to our county, and the location of it, I think, makes a lot of good business sense where it's at. It shouldn't be very evasive to all the inner parts of New Kent. It would affect mainly the most people traveling east and west on 64.
Thank you, Ms. Townsend. Ms. Rose?
I share Ms. Townsend's sentiments. I think it's a real coup for New Kent to have something like a Buc-ee's. Up until 2 years ago, I didn't know what a Buc-ee's was either. But my family has stopped at the Buc-ee's in Florida and South Carolina along the way to visit relatives, and it's very impressive. They do things the right way. The food is excellent. It's more of a destination spot, and the fact that we can potentially get a lot of tax revenue from people passing through the county without a drain on services is a real benefit. So,
thank you, Ms. Rose. Mr. Davis.
Echo the sentiments of the other two commissioners. I guess the question I have is this precedent setting, of course, and is this the first of many that we may see in the future? This is, in my mind, a relatively easy decision. I think the impacts are really minimized by the location and the distances and certainly the results, at least we see of the balloon test. So certainly I'm in favor of it, but I guess in the future we'll see what other projects will bring to us. Again, once it's a precedent, so once the first one goes, I'm sure there will be others. And again, hopefully they will conform as well as this one should.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Mr. Moore.
Coincidentally, I did my homework. I was in Florence on Thursday and yesterday came back and happened to stop at Buc-ee's both times. And it's quite an experience that, no trucks to deal with, just a lot of travelers, but everybody in a really good frame of mind. The hospitality is unlike anything I've seen in traveling. So the signage, that's the easy part. You guys working on site plans that'll be the tough part. But happy to have them here, or will have here.
Thank you, Mr. Moore and Mr. LaRochelle.
I think it's the right type of development in the right location, and I think it's a good fit.
Thank you, Mr. LaRochelle. Ms. Pearson.
I'm looking forward to the brisket and the jerky.
Keeping it simple, Ms. Pearson. Ms. Butler.
I agree with everything that everybody has said. I've never been to a Buc-ee's, but I'm looking forward to.
Thank you, Ms. Butler. Mr. Teller.
Well, I visited one in Florence, South Carolina this past October, and it's impressive, to say the least. And had a really nice tour from I think he was the assistant manager there the day I stopped by and toured the facility. And it's, like somebody said earlier, it's a destination. And the gentleman that I spoke to that day said people come here to Christmas shop, so it's unbelievable.
Get
So,
fudge.
yep, fudge. And a friend of mine stopped there over the weekend and brought me some beef jerky back. So, haven't tried it because I'm just waiting till I've got something really ice cold to drink. 'Cause it's made with ghost pepper, so we'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Mr. Tiller. I plan to visit a Bucky when I'm in Texas in about 2 weeks. So, but otherwise, I can't add to anything that's already been said. So I will ask for a roll call vote by the members. Mr. Berry.
Mr. Moyer.
Aye.
Ms. Pearson.
Aye.
Ms. Rhodes.
Aye.
Ms. Butler. Aye. Mr. Townsend. Ms. Townsend, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Aye. Mr. La Rochelle.
Aye.
Mr. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Tiller.
Abstain.
Mr. Bennett.
Aye. This will be presented next month to the Board of Supervisors, and that meeting date is about the 10th of April. Okay. So thank you for your presentations. Thank you for being here. And thank you for the citizens that attended on that matter. Moving along, we're going to new business. And again, I'm going to call Ms. LeDuc. Is there any new business we'd like to speak about? No. Okay. Next item is Chairman's report. I really have no report, but I'd like to do one item. And those people who haven't been introduced, our planning director is here. Amy Inman is here sitting in the audience. And please make yourself known to her, and she will make herself known to you. Okay? So take advantage of her with her experience. Thank you for coming tonight. Ms. Pearson, the Covenant Plan RVA.
It was just a pretty routine meeting on the 9th of March. There was a special presentation by the Emergency Management Alliance of Central Virginia. They gave us their goals for the coming year, and they gave us a list of the grants that they have gotten through the years from fiscal year 22 to fiscal year 18. If anybody's interested in that, I can share that with them. Just a pretty routine meeting with the budget discussions, and that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Pearson. Commissioners report, and we'll start with Ms. Butler. Anything?
No, I don't have anything. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tiller. Okay. Okay. Ms. Townsend.
I do have one item, which I'm probably beating a dead horse right at the moment, but
I
at
mean,
the intersection of Dispatch and 249, I still have some major concerns that we're going to have to do something with that traffic there. It's getting a little bit dangerous, I think. I hope the Board of Supervisors will take a look at it.
How long ago was there a traffic study?
I don't know how long ago the traffic study was, but I think the most recent thing we asked for was a traffic light study. It's different.
Okay.
Because I tried for Marketplace Drive for several years, and then somebody said ask for this, and I did.
Yeah.
And they approved the light, so changing gears.
Ms. Rhodes.
No, I don't really have anything substantial. There was one thing, and probably it's just a note for people to think about. When I was reading through the minutes of last month's meeting and the Food Lion conditional use permit, and I know there was a lot of back and forth on the was increasing the square footage above
The maximum.
above the 30,000.
That's correct.
30,000. And I understand, once the camel's nose is under the tent, it's hard to rein it back in. But I was just thinking about that compared to some of the regulations that I deal with, where we have certain levels by which some facility would undergo a certain level of evaluation to obtain a permit. If you stay below certain thresholds, the permitting is much less rigorous. But if in fact you go back for a second bite at the apple, way too soon, meaning you essentially got a sham permit, there's significant penalties, but there's also some provisions written into the regulation to deal with phased construction. So I was just thinking in terms of there being something put into our code that would direct those individuals considering something like that.
That's not a bad thought, and maybe Kelly add it to our list of things for the code amendments. And I'll let you two get together to, but I understand what she's saying is that if you're already been issued a conditional use permit and you're coming back to ask for another one to modify what was just granted 1 or 2 years ago, you're doing a little bit too quick, and it doesn't set everybody really well. And maybe there should be a time lag or something like that nature.
Yeah, time or some secondary trigger. I'm not sure. I haven't thought through all of it, but it was just it just seemed to track very similar to what I'm used to seeing as far as some safeguards put in some of the environmental regulations.
Okay.
It's like coming back for a second bite of the apple.
Right.
After the first bite and a third bite and a fourth bite and all. So,
No, it makes sense.
okay. Thank you, Ms. Rose. Mr. Davis.
I have a monthly report for the steering committee for the comp plan update. We did meet virtually on the 15th, just last week, with EPR and staff. The EPR continues to work on the transportation analysis task. I know they've been meeting with staff quite a bit and getting a lot of information from staff. There was a discussion at that meeting as far as inviting a member of the road viewers to the steering committee, staff or planning, as well as EPR will be meeting with the Board of Road Viewers on the 23rd, which is this week. Yep, this week. So the focus at this point is dealing a lot with transportation issues with EPR. The next meeting of the steering committee, we're trying to narrow down dates for that meeting, but it will happen in April, and we'll go over the results to date, I guess, with what EPR has done, and plus also get ready to get into the next public engagement and try to hone down a few items that we've been talking about. So.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Mr. Moyer.
Well, back to the food line, talking to Tommy, they withdrew their request to the Board of Supervisors, and talking to the local divisional manager, his idea was, I don't know why they went for that, because the idea that I think Mr. Bennett and Ms. Tiller and Kate had were basically to punch a hole in the one side and it would work the same way. So I think that proves with the help of some discussion, we can work things out for those. But you're exactly right. If you come back and you want, and that's how a lot of us felt that night. You come back and you want a little bit more. Maybe you should have planned it a little differently from the get-go, if that was a concern. Because it's not like they haven't built a food line. They have a 30,000 square foot idea, And that's all over the rest of the East Coast, and also the big ones too. But, it worked, okay? So your concern was justified.
Thank you, Mr. Boer. Mr. La Rochelle?
No, sir, nothing to add.
Thank you. Ms. Pearson?
Nothing to add from me.
Thank you very much. As for a commissioner's report, I'm still looking for volunteers to help sort out some of the definitions with the zoning definitions and the forgive me, brain.
Uses?
Yes,
Permitted and conditional.
permitted and special uses that we have separation. Thank you very much. I like to force like two people on each part of that. I'm going to point to Mr. La Rochelle. Are you still considering it? Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to see another person join Mr. La Rochelle. I don't know which aspect you were going to look for. But yes, Ms. Rose.
Mr. Chairman, could you outline a little bit more about the help that you're looking for? Because I would probably be interested in working on something like that.
The difficulty staff has expressed to me is the definitions that we have are using to define certain terms and uses in the zoning documents may be archaic or need to be adjusted and clarified. Okay. That's one item. And then there may be overlapping or maybe not quite clear cut between the conditional use and the other uses. So those are two avenues. I thought this would be a good opportune time as we prepare for the comp plan and going towards the zoning amendment, that this would be a good opportune time to look at those a little closely so we're prepared for it and maybe even make recommendations to that. So it's not something that has to be done in a month. I think it could be done over the course of the year because we're still 36 months before we get into zoning adjustments, correct? If not more. I'm sorry? Go ahead. At least. So it's something we can do over time. We just can't lose. I want the same people to do it so it's clearly focused in their minds. Okay? So think about it and get back to me with the next meeting, please.
Okay.
Thank you. Let's see, where are we on the agenda? Oh, we're closing up commissioner's report. Staff reports. Ms. LeDuc.
Thank you, sir.
You're very welcome.
The only thing I have to report is next month's agenda, Liberty Landing will be ready for public hearing. So be ready for that one.
Is that the only item?
That is the only item.
Thank you.
On purpose.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Liberty Landing.
Liberty Landing.
Liberty Land, okay.
Their application materials are about this big, so we'll be hand delivering those to y'all.
Is it basically the same application that had been presented once before?
Yeah, remember when their representative was here, I think it was December. There have been some minor tweaks since then based on the staff level reviews that were done, but the overall concept plan is still the same. So a lot of the technical data has been updated. A lot of environmental impact studies have been finalized since then. They did update their fiscal impact analysis. So all of that. We wanted you guys to have the most up-to-date information given all the growth that's happened even since December. So they did do some updated reports. So that's going to be all included.
And Ms. LeDuc, the last time they made a presentation to us was when?
December. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was December.
Not this past December, December a year ago.
No, 22. Yeah.
Was it?
End of last year. Oh, it wasn't December? I'd have to look. Yeah, you got your annual report. I know it was maybe October. For some reason, December sticks in my mind, but that was the CUP or the CIP. Yeah, you're right. But yeah, since then though, there really hasn't been a whole lot of substantive change in their plan.
Okay, March.
It was a year. Holy smokes.
March 21st.
Okay.
But a lot of things have happened since then. I'll give you that credit. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Now the reason for that is that they had been here well before that too.
Right.
But this is the updated plan with townhouses single family. Before they were townhouses and apartments.
Right.
So
Yeah, they've
that's the
gone
big
through.
difference between the way back, that's two, 3, maybe even 4 years ago. So it was
Yeah.
March.
Yeah,
6 years ago?
geez,
Was it?
time really does
Mr.
fly.
It was either December or 6 years ago. I don't know.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Thank you, Ms. Ledoux.
Okay, thanks all.
The next meeting, business item number 14, we're closing in on it, is scheduled for April 17th, 6:30 in this room for our next planning commission meeting. If there is nothing other to bring up before this commission, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adjourn.
Thank you, Ms. Townsend. We have closed this commissioners meeting at 7:19. Thank you very much for attending, folks, and have a good night.
Get this?
Thank you, sir. Well, thank y'all for coming too.
Just working it.